If a lively person is called a ball of sunshine, Natalie is the whole sun with her extroverted and for-the-people personality. Having lived her entire life in Miami, she is excited to move to a more autumny place, Pittsburgh, after landing a job at the university there. The building Natalie lived in had become her family rather than just her neighbors, making it an emotional experience to leave them. After moving, Natalie fully planned on making such close relations in her new building as well. Probably why she moved 6 weeks ahead of her job's first day. The first person she meets outside the building is Mark, the super of the building. She keeps talking to him while he keeps showing himself in a rush for his job. But Natalie is not the one who picks hints that a person is trying to get away from her. Inside the building, she meets her immediate neighbor Sylvia and her dog Lola. Sylvia straight up lists out things she cannot do and how even doormats need to be approved by the HOA, Homeowners Association. Natalie jokes about the HOA president being strict. Sylvie laughs while telling them she is the president and leaves an awkward Natalie. Coming down to look around the city, Natalie comes across the artist resident Hector and the housewife resident Liz. Liz is mad that the painting board is covering her lockers, while Hector tells her it isn't getting enough light in his apartment. Meanwhile, a third resident, Chuck, enters the lobby and starts sneezing, making the Liz's kid wake up. Natalie tries to introduce herself and offer help in all this chaos, but gets easily ignored. Getting out, she walks around to find a girl giving pamphlets for a volunteer campaign about a walk to end Alzheimer's. Natalie, being an angel, agrees to sign up and meets the leading woman, Linda, running the campaign. As she is standing there, Mark passes by and casually declines to even listen to her. Natalie, being the person who gets into everyone's businesses, tries to confront him, but he tells her he isn't interested and leaves. Walking around, Natalie comes across a diner where she meets the sweetest soul, Drea. Natalie tries the pies and immediately becomes a fan. Mark walks in to get his usual order when a person asks for a napkin. Even though he is right next to the napkins, he doesn't bother making Natalie get up and give them the napkins so Drea doesn't have to walk over. Drea has known Mark for a long time and tells Natalie how he is a kind man but heavily guarded. Talking to Drea, Natalie comes up with the idea of throwing a chili party for all the building residents as a way to bond with them. However, nobody comes to the party even though she puts a sign on the notice board. Mark visits to fix the sink and tells her that people don't like each other much around here, and he believes in not meddling in other people's businesses, so he won't be sharing anything else. The next day, she meets Mark going on a bicycle ride for his me time. Natalie mocks Mark that all time is me time for him, while Mark retorts that all her time is for others. Ironically, Natalie is going to buy souvenirs for her friends back in Miami. Once back, she is passing the lobby when she overhears Mark telling Mira that all signs on the board are to be approved by the HOA before being placed. That is what Natalie assumes is the reason no one came, although it is pretty obvious that the people are rude and won't visit anyway. All the remaining judgment for Natalie begins when people get to know she lives on the 5th floor. But once again, Mr. Minding his own business won't tell her about that politics either. Natalie decides to make sure she brings the people in this building together. The next plan involves bonding with them by handing out free muffins. Not a single person takes a muffin, amusing Mark, who is currently painting a railing outside. After spending a lot of time with her untouched muffins, Natalie tells Mark how the lobby needs decorations, so people feel like chit-chatting there. Mark takes her to the storage room and shows her the decorations, telling her they used to do it when he was a kid. Turns out his father was a super in this building as well. Hector passes by, reminding Mark about the HOA meeting. This makes Natalie prepare snacks once again to meet everyone. In the meeting, everyone is fighting about minimal things like how the exterminator's timing is weird or what color should they paint something. Natalie gives a logical solution, but the fact that she lives on the 5th floor and how her laid-down muffins could be the reason they need an exterminator make her the enemy again. Mark tells her there's no way to lend help to this group. The next day, Natalie gets her tasks for the campaign and is yapping to Drea about them, along with mentioning how she would have found it better if she knew places and locations here. Mark walks in as if on cue. Drea threatens Mark to either pay $1,200 for $12 of food or help her, knowing this is the only way he would. Seems like Drea makes the rules because Mark agrees. However, he doesn't like how everything on Natalie's list is for others and not hers. Natalie rushes to greet Chuck from the building, but Chuck gets awkward and leaves right away. Well, her energy does get creepy sometimes. While spreading out pamphlets, she gets to talk to Mark about his life and then comes up with the idea that she'd invite everyone for leaf peeping during the extermination time. She places the invite on the notice board. Natalie is ranting to Linda about how Mark thinks no one would show up and how she lives for people when the pinwheel flowers arrive. Linda explains how the colors of the flowers symbolize different stuff, like people who lost loved ones for it, who show support. But while Natalie is looking at the photos, she notices Linda's picture with a blue flower, suggesting people living with it. Turns out Linda had an early onset and she's been doing everything she can to help herself. Just like Mark said, nobody shows up for leaf peeping. Seeing how she wanted to go with someone, Mark decided to tag along. The two ride bicycles to go. While enjoying nature, they come down to a deal that Mark will be involved in making the building people like each other, while she will try to live more for herself in return. Mark takes her to see how every day Hector blasts his music and Liz comes marching to tell him to lower it down. However, Hector tells her if she can't silence her kids, he won't turn down his noise either. Mark tells her noise might not be an issue in their lives. The two of them decide to bring them out with the excuse of Hector helping the kids paint so they can talk it out. However, Natalie is stupid enough to directly mention there being another reason behind it. Mark comes to the rescue and strikes up a conversation about Hector's grandmother living in that apartment. Hector mentions how she taught him everything and helped him feel better since his mother was always working. Liz apologizes since she had the same scenario, which is why she is there for her kids all the time, even if it's overwhelming. The two apologize to each other and get to talking, making them leave. Natalie gets the task of recruiting another team for the walk, but Linda makes sure to tell her to relax as well. Later on, Mark takes her to a balcony-like space in the building that isn't used by anyone. There, they overhear Mira shouting at Shanti for not taking out her laundry, something that happens every week. The two bring Mira to Shanti's yoga lesson, after which Natalie strikes a conversation with Mira about her job. With that, Mira tells about her promotion and heavy workload, and gets to know how Shanti got laid off recently and is on call all the time as a substitute virtual yoga instructor online. Eventually, Shanti ends up being a low-paying assistant for Mira. After that, Mark and Natalie visit Linda, where Linda is still telling Natalie to relax and live for herself, etc. With that, Mark takes her to his dad's party where Drea is also present. Natalie finally gets to know the fifth-floor politics, as that some people living that high assume they are better than others. But the party goes by with a lot of fun, and at night, Natalie gets to know that when Jimmy, Mark's dad, was a super, he had one rule that was to keep it professional, because they had keys to everyone's houses and were trusted. Once, two sisters had a huge fight, and one was kicked out without any belongings. Jimmy refused to lend her the master key, but Mark, being young and stupid, thought he was doing the right thing by giving her the key. She ended up stealing a lot of things, and Jimmy took the blame to save Mark. Jimmy tells Mark to stop holding on to that. While leaving, Natalie realizes they can bring the building people on the walk as a team. Mark is sure he might need to find a new job if he stays around her. The next day, they put an air purifier in the lobby to help with Chuck's sneezes. They also place a setup for Lolo in a condo so Sylvia doesn't have to take her out. After that, Mark tells Natalie to meet her at the condo at 5. When she reaches there, she is surprised to see the condo decorated with autumn decorations with everyone there at the party. Mark reveals how he made a bench from the stuff in the storage room to represent everyone and place it in the lobby. After that, they bring Sylvia to the party as well, and Natalie puts forward the volunteering for walk. Surprisingly, everyone agrees. Mark and Natalie confess to each other and are about to kiss when Linda's call disturbs them. Natalie goes to register the team when she finds Linda looking at her picture and questioning who that is. This makes Natalie break down more than Linda. Everything goes wrong when she comes back and sees everyone fighting. This eventually leads to Sylvia reminding Mark about not repeating what his father did. Natalie still wants to fix things, but Mark tells her some things are too broken to fix and leaves in frustration. Natalie is at the walk feeling sad about the lost cause, but then decides to focus her energy on the walk. She tells Linda how she's always there for her. Mark feels sad and is getting high on pies while Drea consoles him, telling him to accept his care for Natalie. Mark casually helps a customer get salt, something he never did, making him realize the influence. Back at the building, Mark finds Liz and Hector trying to fix the bench. Mark decides to have them help fix another thing. Meanwhile, Natalie is introduced as a special friend by Linda. Natalie is giving a speech when Mark comes in telling her how he passed the salt to someone without thinking, signifying he has changed thanks to Natalie. Most of the building residents are also there. As the walk begins, the changed relations are clearly shown. Sylvia apologizes to Mark for the words regarding his father. Mark is finally open, accepting both his involvement in the building and with Sylvia. marking it with a kiss.